Welcome to this session on urbanization, challenges and solutions. As most of you are probably aware, India was an overwhelmingly rural country at independence. Its concerns and challenges were largely viewed as relating to rural poverty alleviation. Attention to the urban sector, which was considered to be better off, was therefore limited for many, many years. It was only by the end of the 1980s that there was talk of cities as engines of growth and the need to think more about urban India and its problems. It was then that national policies on urban housing and urban improvement began to be formulated. However, large-scale action was still some distance away. In the 1990s, influential reports like the Rakesh Mohan Committee on Infrastructure highlighted the huge shortfall in urban infrastructure that was holding back prospects of economic growth. The urban sector was seen as constrained by the twin challenges of an overall governance deficit and a huge gap in the required infrastructure. The governance deficit in terms of the autonomy and capacity at city and town level to decide and manage their own affairs was what was critical. Administration at city and town level is affected by fragmented responsibilities shared with numerous state-level departments for planning and provision of various services. The infrastructure deficit is in terms of the schemes to provide water, sewerage, and solid waste management, urban mobility, housing, and other connected amenities. The governance challenge extends to the land space. Proper land administration is considered critical, not only for facilitating the land market, but also for better land use, planning, and more efficiently making available land for infrastructure projects. Land administration in urban India has suffered from a number of challenges. In the first place, there is the lack of proper urban title records, even in the form that were created for rural areas in colonial times. Rural land records were created to facilitate the collection of the most important source of revenue in the pre-industrial era, land revenue. As a result, only agricultural land, which would yield an income in those times, saw the creation of land records that showed both the person liable to pay land revenue and the quality of the land in order to assess the revenue that would be levied on such land. Inhabited areas of towns and villages were unproductive from an agricultural standpoint, and therefore, barring commercially important locations like maritime ports of Bombay and Madras in the colonial times, none of the cities were surveyed to create a record of rights or title. The second issue relates to the multiplicity of agencies looking after various aspects of land administration in expanding cities. The urban area may have some form of property tax registers with the municipal authorities. Peri-urban areas would have land records maintained by the revenue department of the state government. Often peri-urban areas, once brought within city limits, may be left with old records which are no longer updated. The registration of property transactions resulting in change of ownership is handled by a department under the state government. The town planning function is often divided between urban development authorities and a state government department of town planning with their own separate records. All this, you may well understand, creates complications for governance. The first major initiative that sought to address these challenges in a comprehensive fashion was the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission, launched in 2005. This program had an explicit twin focus, asking states to undertake reforms to enable self-governing cities and based on this, obtain finance for urban infrastructure projects in every major area of services ranging from basic services of water, sewerage, sanitation, solid waste management to mobility and housing. Evaluation of the program after 10 years brought out that reform conditionality and project sanctioning systems had constrained achievement. Consequently, the next generation programs called Amrut and Smart City Mission have reduced conditionality, simplified procedures and sought to bypass the governance bottleneck with special purpose vehicles. The twin challenges of governance and infrastructure are still with us after many years of implementing major urban reform and funding programs. The gap of a proper coordinated single record is now being seen as critical in the provision of physical infrastructure in the cities and for the proper assessment and collection of city-level taxes to ensure the financial sustainability of cities. The Government of India has since 2020 allocated large amounts to a special scheme for assistance to states for capital investment. This scheme, over the years, has grown enormously. This year, its allocation is over 1,50,000 crore. Over the years, funding under the scheme has been linked increasingly to reform in various sectors. In 2023, urban sector reform for better city planning and property tax collection was included in the sectors in which conditionalities were imposed. In 2024, urban land reform has received an even more explicit focus. Creation of urban land and property records through use of modern technology by proper survey is now an important objective to enable enhanced funding for urban infrastructure projects. The question is whether SASCI, the scheme of special assistance to states for capital investment, and its predecessors of Amrut and Smart City Mission, which are ongoing programs, can deliver the improvements in urban governance and infrastructure where previous programs have not managed to make sufficient progress. At the overall level, the prospects are not promising, unless somehow accountability for performance shifts to city level and the emphasis shifts to sustainable delivery of services and not just creation of new assets through capital expenditure. However, SASCI could definitely deliver a new urban land record wherever it is lacking in India. The future will tell about the quality and the extent to which it is used for various purposes like city planning, infrastructure creation, and property taxation. Thank you.